There is a man whose story I must tell you. He did everything they told him to do. He followed every rule they laid before him. He went to school, studied hard, and carried the advice of his elders like sacred scripture. He worked long hours, saved when he could, took few risks, and believed that if he was obedient to the system, he would one day arrive at the promised land of success. Yet, after decades of labor, after years of submission to the so-called proven path, he looked up and realized that the land of promise was barren. He found himself tired, worn, and empty of the very security he thought the rules would deliver. This man did not fail because he was lazy, dishonest, or careless. He failed because he followed rules that were never designed to make him free. And here lies a lesson, one that can save you from the same trap. There is a difference between the rules of society, which keep you orderly, and the laws of success, which make you wealthy, fulfilled, and strong. The rules of society tell you where to sit, when to stand, and what to repeat, but the laws of success tell you what you must think, what you must believe, and what you must do if you wish to rise above the crowd. To confuse one for the other is to build your life on sand and to discover too late that the foundation has no strength. The first great truth he discovered is that most of what people call rules are simply habits of the herd. Do not mistake conformity for wisdom. The majority is almost always wrong when it comes to wealth, independence, and true achievement. If you model your life on what most people do, you will end up where most people end up, dependent, anxious, and wondering why their best years slipped through their fingers. The man I speak of did what most do. He looked to his neighbors, his co-workers, and his family and said to himself, "If I live as they live, I will be safe." But the majority are not safe. They are one paycheck away from collapse, one illness away from ruin, one shift in the economy away from despair. If you wish to be different in outcome, you must first be different in thought. This is why the laws of success are not written on any school wall nor taught in most classrooms. They are whispered in books that few finish, hidden in the habits of the successful, and waiting for the eyes that are brave enough to see them. This man came to realize that the greatest error he made was believing that obedience alone was the key to prosperity. Obedience has its place, yes. The soldier obeys his commander, the child obeys his parent, the student obeys his teacher. But wealth, growth, and mastery are not granted to the obedient. They are granted to the disciplined, to the visionary, to the one who thinks independently. The world does not reward blind followers. It rewards creators, thinkers, and problem solvers. And yet how many live their lives waiting for someone else to hand them instructions, to point them to a ladder, to show them where to climb? When you follow the rules without question, you abandon the greatest power given to you, the power of choice. The man who followed the rules faithfully handed his future to others, believing that someone else knew better than he what his destiny should be. One of the most dangerous lies we are told from the very beginning is this: if you work hard, you will succeed. That is not a law, it is a half-truth. Hard work alone guarantees nothing but exhaustion. If effort were the key, the hardest laborers would be the wealthiest among us. But go look, and you will see that many of the hardest working people earn the least. Why? Because effort without direction is wasted. Labor without vision is slavery. It is not enough to work hard, you must work rightly, with purpose, guided by principles that transform sweat into harvest. The man who followed the rules worked hard. He gave his best hours, his strongest years to the grind, and yet he reaped little, for his energy was spent on someone else's plan, not his own. Now here is the law he finally learned, and I want you to say this with me, write it down and repeat it until it is carved into your mind. I do not merely work hard, I work with purpose, direction, and vision. Say it again to yourself quietly. Write it on your notepad, engrave it on the walls of your memory. The law of purposeful labor is what separates the man who exhausts himself from the man who empowers himself. The first breaks his back in service to another's dream. The second builds his own dream step by step. Purpose is the multiplier of effort. It turns ordinary hours into extraordinary progress. Another law that he uncovered too late, and which I beg you to take to heart now, is this: wealth is not created by time spent, but by value given. The man had believed that years alone would earn him reward. He thought loyalty to a company, consistency in attendance, and obedience to instruction would eventually place him in the circle of the prosperous. But time is not the currency of success, contribution is. 10 years of adding little value are worth less than 1 year of high service. A decade of standing in line will never equal a single bold step that creates something others need. Say this to yourself and let it settle. My rewards in life are in proportion to the value I create. Write it down, not tomorrow, not later, now. Because if this is not seared into your mind, you will spend your days trading away your time for pennies and your life for scraps. The man who followed the rules also failed because he placed his trust in promises that were never meant to be kept. He was told that if he stayed loyal, if he stayed patient, and if he stayed quiet, someone would take care of him. But no one will take care of you, not in the way you need, not in the way your spirit requires. You must take care of yourself. Dependence is a slow poison. Every time you hand your future to someone else, you lose a piece of your freedom. The man waited for retirement, for benefits, for some final recognition of his decades of obedience. And when it came, it was dust in his hands. What he received was not freedom but limitation, not abundance but scarcity. This is why you must embrace the law of responsibility now. No one owes me anything. I am responsible for my own life. Say it out loud. Write it down. Let it pierce through every excuse and dissolve every illusion of safety. The true tragedy of this man's life was not that he failed, but that he did not fail soon enough to learn while there was still time to rebuild. Failure is not the enemy. It is delay that kills. To fail early, to stumble quickly, is to be granted the gift of correction. But to follow rules blindly for decades, only to discover too late that they led you nowhere, is the cruelest waste of all. This is why you must test your path now. Ask yourself, am I on the road to my own vision, or am I walking someone else's? Am I working for freedom, or am I working for survival? Do not wait until you are too old to answer those questions. For every day you spend on the wrong road is a day stolen from the right one. And so, as we begin this journey together, I will leave you with the first law, the first anchor, the first principle you must write and declare until it becomes a part of your thinking. I am one with wealth and wisdom, free of fear and doubts. Say it now, write it down, whisper it tonight before you sleep. The man who followed the rules lost because he never made this choice. But you can decide differently. You can choose to be guided by law, not by rules, by vision, not by conformity, by contribution, not by compliance. The choice is yours, and if you make it today, the story of your life will not be one of disappointment, but of destiny. The second lesson that emerges from the story of the man who followed the rules and lost is that clarity is the rarest of treasures, and without it, no amount of effort can save you. Most men and women wander through life as though walking in a fog, bumping into obstacles, adjusting course randomly, hoping by some accident to stumble into success. But success is never an accident. It is always the deliberate outcome of a mind fixed upon a definite goal. This man believed that the rules he followed would substitute for clarity. He thought that if he simply kept moving forward, the path would eventually reveal itself. But he mistook motion for direction. He mistook activity for progress. And so he arrived at old age with years of motion behind him, but very little movement toward what truly mattered. The lesson is as sharp as it is simple. Unless you know exactly what you want, the rules will lead you nowhere. What separates those who rise from those who remain stuck is not intelligence, luck, or even opportunity. It is the act of defining with precision what they are pursuing. When you know what you want, your mind, like a magnet, begins to draw in people, ideas, and opportunities that align with it. But if you refuse to decide, if you continue to drift, your magnet is weak and scattered. It attracts nothing, and so you conclude that life is unfair, when in truth it is your vagueness that has betrayed you. The man I speak of never once sat in silence and asked himself, what do I really want? He accepted the answers society gave him, comfort, retirement, approval, and never tested them against the hunger of his own spirit. And so he lived by default instead of by design? This brings us to another law, one you must engrave upon your memory. Success begins with a definite goal. I want you to write that down right now. Say it with me. Success begins with a definite goal. Without this, nothing else works. With this, everything else begins to align. Do not let the simplicity of this law deceive you. Most men will never obey it. They will live their entire lives without writing down a single goal. They will drift from job to job, from year to year, and then wonder why their lives feel like sand slipping through their fingers. This law is not optional. It is the foundation upon which all other truths stand. Now consider this truth. The world does not care what you wish for. It responds to what you demand with your actions. Wishes are whispers in the wind, but goals written, spoken, and pursued with discipline become signals sent out into the universe. The man who followed the rules had many wishes. He wished for comfort, for safety, for approval, but he had no goals. A wish fades, a goal commands. A wish drifts, a goal directs. This is why you must not only think of what you desire, but put it in ink. Take a pen, take a piece of paper, and write down what it is you seek. Until you do, your energy is scattered, and your effort is diluted. When you write it down, you activate the law of clarity, and suddenly the fog begins to lift. There is another dimension to this law. Once you have defined your goal, you must see yourself already in possession of it. The mind cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined picture and reality if that picture is impressed upon it daily. The man I speak of never visualized himself free, wealthy, or fulfilled. He visualized only the next task, the next paycheck, the next instruction from someone above him, and so his mind built for him a life that reflected those images. If you want something greater, you must see it before you hold it. You must claim it inwardly before it manifests outwardly. This is why I tell you now, close your eyes tonight and picture yourself already there, already strong, already free, already prosperous. And I give you another law, one that will shape the very destiny of your days if you will take it seriously. I am already living the life I desire. My mind is the blueprint, and my actions are the tools. Say it out loud. Write it on the same page where you wrote your goal. Repeat it every morning before you set out into the world. This affirmation is not magic, it is alignment. It fixes your mind on the picture you wish to create, and the mind, once fixed, will find 1,000 ways to make that picture real. The man who followed the rules never understood this, and so his life reflected only what he allowed others to draw for him. But clarity alone is not enough. It must be matched with discipline. To define a goal and then fail to act on it daily is to play a cruel game with yourself. The universe does not reward intention, it rewards consistent action. The law is this: daily discipline is the bridge between desire and destiny. Write that one down as well. Say it. Daily discipline is the bridge between desire and destiny. Write that one down as well. Say it. Daily discipline is the bridge between desire and destiny. The man who followed the rules waited for someone else to build that bridge for him. He assumed that time itself was the bridge, that if he simply endured long enough, the future would carry him across. But no bridge builds itself. Every plank, every stone must be laid with your own hands day by day until at last the other side is reached. So let me ask you now, what is your definite goal? If I stopped you in the street and asked you to tell me, could you explain it in a single sentence, with conviction, without hesitation? If you cannot, then know this: you are drifting, and drifting leads only to regret. The law is unforgiving but fair. It gives abundance to the one who knows, and emptiness to the one who guesses. This is why you must sit down tonight in quiet and decide what you want. Decide who you will be. Decide where you are going. Write it, speak it, visualize it, and then build it. That is the path. That is the way. And here at the close of this part, I give you the affirmation that will anchor you to this truth. I know exactly what I want, and I discipline myself daily to achieve it. Say it with me. Whisper it now. Shout it if you must. Write it until the ink runs dry, for the man who followed the rules never declared this, and that is why his story is a warning. But you can declare it now, and in doing so, you set your life on a course that will save you from his fate. The third revelation that rises from the life of the man who followed the rules and lost is that wealth, freedom, and achievement are never born from comfort. Comfort is the silent thief of greatness, the slow rot that weakens ambition, the velvet trap that feels pleasant even as it imprisons you. This man believed that if he stayed safe, if he avoided risks, if he remained in the warm circle of predictability, life would eventually reward him. But life does not reward safety, it rewards courage. It does not honor avoidance, it honors pursuit. The rules he followed were designed to keep him comfortable, to keep him from questioning, to keep him from daring. And yet, comfort is the very thing that killed his potential. To live in comfort is to live in a cage. The bars may be golden, but they are bars nonetheless. Understand this clearly. Every person is either moving forward into growth or backward into decay. There is no neutral ground, no standing still. The man who followed the rules thought he was maintaining his ground, preserving what little he had, keeping steady in the name of prudence. But by refusing to grow, he was decaying. By refusing to advance, he was retreating. By refusing to dare, he was surrendering. Life demands motion, and motion without progress is wasted. The law is simple, and I want you to write it down. There is no neutral. You are either growing or decaying. Say it softly. Say it firmly. Let it echo within you. If you are not growing, you are shrinking. If you are not advancing, you are retreating. If you are not building, you are crumbling. This law is inescapable. Comfort feeds fear. When a person becomes accustomed to ease, the very thought of stretching beyond it becomes terrifying. The man I speak of became so comfortable with his routine that the idea of starting a business, investing in himself, or learning something new seemed like a threat to his survival. His comfort became his coffin. How many people today live in the same quiet prison? They stay at the same job, repeat the same habits, live the same week over and over until years pass unnoticed. And when they finally wake up, they realize that nothing has changed because they refuse to change. Comfort is seductive. It whispers that you can wait, that tomorrow will be safer, that risks are too dangerous. But tomorrow never comes, and the risks only grow larger the longer they are avoided. Now listen carefully. Every great success was purchased at the price of discomfort. Discipline is discomfort. Sacrifice is discomfort. Growth is discomfort. But in that discomfort lies transformation. The body does not grow stronger without resistance. The mind does not grow sharper without challenge. The spirit does not grow deeper without trial. The man who followed the rules fled from discomfort and therefore fled from growth. Do not repeat his mistake. Learn to embrace the uneasy, the unfamiliar, the demanding, for it is the forge of greatness. Let me give you the law plainly. Discomfort is the price of growth. Write it down, say it. Discomfort is the price of growth. Every time you feel resistance, you are being invited to rise. Every time you feel the sting of sacrifice, you are being given a chance to expand. The easy road leads to weakness. The difficult road leads to strength. Let us make it practical. Ask yourself, what are you avoiding because it feels uncomfortable? Is it the conversation you know you must have? The skill you know you must learn? The plan you know you must act on? Do not run from it. Do not excuse it. Face it. Because beyond that discomfort lies the very reward you say you want. The man who followed the rules avoided discomfort, and in doing so, he avoided his destiny. You must not. Write down one uncomfortable action you can take today and commit to it. That small step may be the crack that breaks the wall of limitation in your life. Another truth you must see is this. Those who pursue comfort in youth will suffer in old age, while those who sacrifice comfort in youth will enjoy freedom in old age. This man reversed the order. He tried to stay comfortable when he was young, believing that his later years would take care of themselves. But when the later years arrived, there was no freedom waiting for him, only regret. The young who embrace discomfort build a future of strength. The old who avoid discomfort build a future of sorrow. Which one will you be? The answer is decided not in the future, but in what you do today. So let us state the affirmation, the anchor that must guide you. I embrace discomfort, for it is the forge of my greatness. Say it aloud. Whisper it if you must. Write it boldly on your page. Repeat it until the very sound of discomfort no longer frightens you but excites you, for it means growth, it means power, it means freedom. The man who followed the rules never declared this law, and that is why he remained bound. But you can declare it now, and in doing so, you free yourself from the golden cage of comfort. Do not misunderstand. Comfort will always tempt you. It will tell you to rest when you should work, to remain silent when you should speak, to stay put when you should move. It is the eternal enemy of progress. But the law is unchanging. Growth belongs to those who lean into discomfort, not those who retreat into ease. Write it again if you must. Repeat it until it becomes a habit. For the habits of embracing discomfort build a life of strength, while the habits of avoiding it build a life of regret. And so the lesson of this part is unmistakable. The man who followed the rules chose comfort and received nothing but loss. You must choose growth, and the cost of growth is discomfort. The choice is yours, and it must be made daily. But if you will make it, if you will embrace the law, then the very discomfort you once feared will become the doorway to the destiny you were meant to live. The fourth lesson drawn from the man who followed the rules and lost is that attitude is destiny. It is not talent, not circumstance, not even education that most determines the quality of a life, but attitude. This man believed that his future was shaped by the conditions around him. He believed that if the economy improved, if his company prospered, if society allowed, then his own fortunes would rise. But in truth, it was not the world around him that defeated him. It was the world within him. His attitude was one of quiet resignation. He obeyed the rules not because he believed they would make him great, but because he feared to stand apart. He accepted little, expected little, and therefore received little. The law is as immutable as gravity itself. Your attitude determines your environment. Write it down. Say it aloud. Your attitude determines your environment. This truth is as sure as sunrise. The man's greatest mistake was not in his labor, but in his outlook. He saw obstacles where others saw opportunities. He saw uncertainty as danger instead of possibility. He lived as though he were a leaf in the wind, subject to every gust of fortune, rather than the captain of a ship charting his own course. And because he believed he had little control, he exerted little control. Because he believed he was small, his life remained small. This is the hidden tragedy of millions. They live below their potential because their attitude refuses to see themselves as the architects of their fate. You cannot rise with a mind that believes you are meant to crawl. Consider this. Two people may face the same problem, yet one is crushed by it while the other is lifted higher. What separates them? Not the problem, it is the same. It is the attitude they bring to it. The man I speak of treated every setback as confirmation of defeat, while another would have treated the same setback as fuel for growth. Your environment is not what surrounds you, it is what radiates from you. The colors of your world are painted by the lens of your attitude. Change your attitude, and the very same circumstances that once defeated you become the foundation of your success. And so I give you the law, and I urge you to repeat it until it is fixed in your mind. I create my environment through my attitude. Write it, say it, believe it. Because the man who followed the rules never understood this law, and so he waited for the environment to change before he changed himself. He thought that one day life would become easier, and then he would rise. But the truth is the opposite. Only when you rise does life become easier. Only when you change your inner world does the outer world shift. Attitude is a magnet. It draws to you people, opportunities, and circumstances that match its charge. A negative attitude repels the very things you say you want, while a positive, determined, and expectant attitude draws them closer. The man who followed the rules walked into every day expecting little, and so he received little. He walked into conversations without vision, and so he left unnoticed. He walked into opportunities with doubt, and so they slipped through his fingers. Do you see? His life mirrored his attitude with perfect precision, and so will yours. Your world is your mirror. To change what you see, you must change what you project. The affirmation that must now become your anchor is this: my attitude is my compass. It points me toward opportunity, strength, and success. Write it down, speak it slowly, whisper it until it feels natural, until it rises in you like breath itself. Because every day your compass will try to drift. The winds of fear, the whispers of doubt, the storms of circumstance will try to turn it aside. But if you fix it firmly with this law, you will never drift far from your true course. Understand this well. Attitude is not pretending. It is not ignoring reality. It is not plastering a smile over despair. Attitude is the deep conviction of the mind that no matter what arises, I am bigger than my problems. I am the cause, not the effect. I am the architect, not the victim. The man who followed the rules thought he was powerless, and so he was. You must believe you are powerful, and so you will be. The mind obeys the orders you give it. If you feed it defeat, it will make you small. If you feed it victory, it will make you strong. The law of attitude extends further still. It not only shapes your life, but it shapes the lives of those around you. Walk into a room with confidence, and you lift the room. Walk in with doubt, and you lower it. A leader's attitude becomes the spirit of the team. A parent's attitude becomes the inheritance of the child. A friend's attitude becomes the silent permission slip for another's behavior. This man left behind not wealth, not wisdom, not vision, but the legacy of resignation. And resignation is contagious. Do not pass it on. Let your legacy be one of strength, expectation, and conviction. So I tell you now, choose your attitude as carefully as you would choose your closest companion. Guard it as you would guard your wealth. Cultivate it as you would cultivate your mind. For it is the one thing that can never be taken from you, and the one thing that determines everything else. Say it with me one more time. My attitude is my compass. It points me toward opportunity, strength, and success. Write it, believe it, and live it. The man who followed the rules never declared this, and that is why his story is a warning. But you can declare it now, and if you do, your life will not be one of quiet defeat, but one of deliberate victory. The fifth lesson that must be drawn from the life of the man who followed the rules and lost is that sacrifice is not loss, it is the very price of greatness. This man believed, as so many do, that if he avoided sacrifice, if he clung to what was easy, if he gave up nothing, he would one day find himself with more. But the opposite is true. By refusing sacrifice, he sacrificed everything. By grasping at comfort, he lost his freedom. By clinging to the small, he forfeited the great. Life will always demand a price, and if you do not pay it willingly in the form of discipline, learning, and contribution, you will pay it unwillingly in the form of regret, dependence, and loss. The law is eternal. Sacrifice is not loss, it is investment. Write that down. Say it. Sacrifice is not loss, it is investment. Let the words sink deep. because until you embrace them, you will continue to run from the very thing that would set you free. The man I speak of avoided sacrifice his entire life. He avoided the sacrifice of saving, and so he lived in scarcity. He avoided the sacrifice of learning new skills, and so he remained replaceable. He avoided the sacrifice of risk, and so he remained dependent. What he thought was preservation was actually erosion. Each refusal to sacrifice today stole from tomorrow. Each moment of ease in the present multiplied into hardship in the future. This is the hidden law of life. Every choice is a sacrifice, whether you realize it or not. You are either sacrificing growth for comfort or sacrificing comfort for growth. There is no escape from sacrifice. The only question is what you will trade. When we look at those who achieve, we see sacrifice everywhere. The entrepreneur sacrifices years of ease to build a vision. The athlete sacrifices pleasure for discipline, practice, and training. The thinker sacrifices distraction for focus. Each act of greatness is built upon something surrendered. The man who followed the rules thought he could skip this law, thought he could arrive at abundance without paying the price. But the universe is not mocked. The harvest always reflects the seed. If you plant nothing, you will reap nothing. If you plant weak seeds, you will reap a weak harvest. If you plant with sacrifice, the harvest will be full. Now let us make this law practical. Ask yourself, what am I willing to sacrifice for the life I desire? Time, comfort, approval, entertainment? You cannot have everything. To say yes to one thing is always to say no to another. The man who followed the rules never decided what to sacrifice, and so he drifted into sacrificing by default. He sacrificed his future for his present, his freedom for his security, his greatness for his ease. You must not repeat this mistake. Choose your sacrifice consciously, and you will be free. Refuse to choose, and life will choose for you. Here is an affirmation that will ingrain this law into your spirit. I sacrifice what is small to gain what is great. Say it aloud, write it boldly, whisper it in your moments of hesitation. For every time you face a choice between ease and growth, you will hear the whisper of this law reminding you that true wealth comes only when you are willing to give up what does not serve your destiny. The man who followed the rules never declared it, and so his destiny was stolen by 1,000 small indulgences that became chains. The paradox of sacrifice is that though it feels like loss in the moment, it is the only path to gain. The man who saves money feels the sting of less spending today, but in time he gains independence. The man who wakes early to study feels the sting of lost sleep, but in time he gains mastery. The woman who declines distraction feels the sting of missing out, but in time she gains the wealth of focus and creation. What you sacrifice in the moment is the seed of what you gain in the future. This is not punishment, it is law. And when you understand the law, sacrifice becomes not a burden, but a privilege. Think of sacrifice as a trade, an exchange in the marketplace of destiny. You give what is temporary in order to gain what is lasting. You surrender what is small in order to gain what is great. The man who followed the rules never entered this marketplace. He clung to the small coins of his present comfort, and in doing so, he forfeited the treasure of his future. But you can enter it today. You can begin the trade that will build your future. Sacrifice is the currency, and greatness is the purchase. And so I tell you, every day you must ask, what am I sacrificing? If you cannot answer, it means you are likely sacrificing by default, and default is the way of decay. Decide now, decide daily, decide with clarity. Trade your distractions for discipline, your comfort for challenge, your doubt for faith. Write it down and repeat it until it becomes a part of you. I sacrifice what is small to gain what is great. This is the law of sacrifice, and it cannot be broken. It can only be obeyed or ignored, and the results of each are plain to see. The man who followed the rules lived his life believing sacrifice was loss. He left behind only the shadow of what might have been. But you, if you take this law seriously, if you repeat it, if you practice it, you will not lose, you will gain. You will gain freedom, you will gain wealth, you will gain a destiny that is yours alone. Remember always, sacrifice is the price, and the price is worth it. The sixth lesson that we must take from the man who followed the rules and lost is that wealth and success are not determined by luck, by chance, or by accident, but by the law of contribution. The world does not pay you for the hours you live. It pays you for the value you give. The man believed that time alone would secure him prosperity. He thought that by showing up faithfully, by remaining loyal, by serving years instead of value, life would eventually pay its debt. But life owes no debt. The universe is neutral. It pays in exact proportion to what you contribute, to the degree of usefulness you create, to the service you provide. This man confused longevity with value, and so he traded decades of his life for pennies. The lesson is eternal. Your income is a reflection of your contribution. Write it down, say it aloud. Your income is a reflection of your contribution. This law will never betray you. The man who followed the rules looked for what he could take, rather than what he could give. He measured his worth by how long he stayed instead of how much he served. And because of that, he remained bound to positions that valued him little, because he added little. But those who rise understand that the question is not, how many years have I been here? The question is, how indispensable am I? How much value do I bring? How much difference do I make? The world cannot help but reward the one who becomes valuable, because value is rare, and rarity always commands reward. To escape the fate of this man, you must embrace the law of contribution. Consider this truth. If you wish to multiply your income, you must multiply your usefulness. If you wish to be free, you must create freedom for others. If you wish to rise, you must lift. The man never understood that service is the seed of wealth. He thought that by doing the bare minimum, by simply fulfilling his role, he was doing enough. But enough is never enough. Wealth is not given to those who scrape by, it is given to those who go beyond. If you want to be irreplaceable, you must offer what cannot be easily replaced. And that means developing your skills, expanding your mind, and multiplying your capacity to serve. Here is the law you must ingrain now. My rewards in life are always in proportion to my service. Write it, say it, repeat it, until it becomes part of your breathing, because the man who followed the rules never declared it, and so he lived by the false law of entitlement. He believed the world owed him for his years, his presence, his loyalty, but the world pays not for loyalty, it pays for service. It pays for excellence. It pays for contribution. Do not forget it. The paycheck you earn is a mirror reflecting the value you give. If you want to raise the reflection, you must raise the value. And let me tell you why this law is liberating. Because it places the power back in your hands. If income were random, if prosperity were luck, then you would be helpless, waiting for chance to smile upon you. But if income is tied to contribution, then you hold the key. You can increase your value every day. You can learn, refine, innovate, and multiply your usefulness. The man never believed this, and so he remained chained to the idea that someone else decided his worth. But you must believe it, for it is the truth. You decide, you determine, you create. Do not confuse contribution with servitude. This man thought that to contribute meant to simply serve quietly, to be obedient, to give himself away without return. But contribution is not slavery. Contribution is creativity. It is the act of using your mind, your hands, your heart to create value where there was none before, to solve a problem, to lift a burden, to meet a need. That is contribution, and it is always rewarded. The farmer contributes crops and he receives food and wealth. The inventor contributes solutions and he receives opportunity and recognition. The entrepreneur contributes services and he receives freedom. The world rewards the contributor and it forgets the mere survivor. Here is your affirmation, and I want you to say it until it rings with certainty in your spirit. I create value, I multiply service, and I attract abundance. Write it boldly, whisper it until it feels natural. Declare it until it becomes who you are. Because contribution is not something you do once, it is something you become. And when you become a person of contribution, abundance follows like a shadow. The man who followed the rules never became this, and so abundance never became his companion. Understand this well. Every problem you see is an opportunity for contribution. Every need you witness is a chance for you to add value. The man saw problems and ran from them. The successful see problems and run toward them, for they know that solutions are the currency of wealth. This is why you must train your eyes to see differently. When others complain, you must create. When others wait, you must act. When others obey, you must think. For in every difficulty lies a seed of equal or greater opportunity, but it is reserved for the one willing to contribute. And so the lesson of this part is clear. The man who followed the rules failed because he measured his life by years rather than value, by loyalty rather than contribution. He waited for life to reward him instead of rewarding life with his best. Do not make his mistake. Write it down now. Why rewards in life are always in proportion to my service. Say it until it is carved into your mind. Live it until it is evident in your results. And in time you will see that while the man who followed the rules lost, the one who lives by law will always win. The seventh lesson we must learn from the life of the man who followed the rules and lost is that identity precedes destiny. You do not become successful and then adopt the habits, appearance, and mindset of success. You adopt the identity first, and success follows as the natural consequence. The man believed the opposite. He thought that if he waited long enough, worked long enough, and obeyed faithfully, one day success would crown him, and only then could he live differently. But life does not work that way. The world reflects what you are, not what you wait for. If you see yourself as ordinary, your life will be ordinary. If you see yourself as weak, your life will be weak. If you see yourself as capable, strong, and destined for greatness, your life begins to shape itself around that vision. The law is unchanging. You become the person you see yourself to be. Write it down, say it aloud. You become the person you see yourself to be. The man who followed the rules saw himself as small. He saw himself as a follower, a servant of other people's visions, a cog in a wheel too large to escape. And because that was his vision of himself, his reality bent to match it. He never dressed, spoke, or carried himself as a man of destiny. He carried himself as a man of dependency, waiting for someone else to open doors for him. But those who rise to greatness know this truth. The doors open only when you walk toward them as though you already belong on the other side. You must wear the identity of success long before its rewards arrive. Let me ask you directly, how do you see yourself? When you walk into a room, do you carry the posture of one who expects respect or the posture of one who hopes to be overlooked? When you set out in your work, do you think as one who creates or one who merely complies? When you speak, do you speak with conviction or do you mumble as though apologizing for your presence? You cannot fool the world. It reflects back to you the image you carry of yourself. If you want your circumstances to change, you must first change your self-concept. Here is the affirmation that will engrave this law into your mind. I act, think and speak as the person I am destined to become. Say it slowly, write it boldly, declare it daily. For every repetition plants a seed, and every seed grows into identity, and every identity grows into destiny. The man who followed the rules never planted this seed, and so his life bore no fruit. But you can, and if you do, the harvest will be rich. Identity is powerful because it governs behavior. A man who identifies as a healthy person will naturally eat, move, and live in ways that create health. A man who identifies as disciplined will naturally act in discipline. But a man who identifies as weak, lazy, or unlucky will act in accordance with that belief. Identity is the hidden autopilot of life, and unless you seize it and program it deliberately, it will be programmed for you by the crowd, by your upbringing, or by your past failures. The man we speak of allowed others to program his identity. He wore the labels society gave him, and so he lived the life society dictated. But you must program yourself. Consider this. Every time you say I am, you are issuing a command to your destiny. I am tired. I am unlucky. I am broke. Each phrase writes itself into your future. But so does I am strong. I am capable. I am destined. Your future listens to the voice of your present. Speak carelessly, and your future will be careless. Speak powerfully, and your future will be powerful. The man who followed the rules filled his life with small declarations. I am just one person. I am doing my best. I am waiting for my time. And so his future reflected those declarations perfectly. You must learn to speak differently. And here is the law, and I want you to say it with conviction until it is etched in you. Every I am is a brick in the house of my destiny. Write it now. Say it again. Every I am is a brick in the house of my destiny. Your words build your future. Build carefully. Build deliberately. Build as though your entire life depends on it, because it does. The man who followed the rules never grasped this truth. He thought destiny was something that arrived from the outside, not something built from the inside. He never understood that by reshaping his identity, he could reshape his life. You must not miss it. Decide today who you are and act as though it were already true. Live from your future, not from your past. Carry yourself as the man or woman you intend to be, and life will align to match. So the lesson of this part is firm. Identity is the seed of destiny. You cannot become until you first believe you are. Write it down. Say it aloud. Ingrain it into your very being. I SEAT think and speak as the person I am destined to become. For the man who followed the rules never made this choice, and that is why his life remained small. But you can make it now, and if you do, the world will not be able to ignore the person you become. The eighth and final lesson from the man who followed the rules and lost is that time is life's greatest currency, and how you spend it decides everything. The man believed he had time in abundance. He thought there would always be another year to pursue his dream, another day to take a risk, another moment to change course. And so he delayed, he postponed, he waited for the perfect moment, which never arrived. By the time he finally realized that his time was the only true wealth he had, it was nearly gone, spent on obedience to rules that never brought him freedom. This is the great tragedy of his life, not that he lacked talent, not that he lacked opportunity, but that he squandered the one resource he could never replace. The law is this: time is your most precious asset. Spend it with intention. Write it down. Say it aloud. Time is your most precious asset. Spend it with intention. Every second is a seed. Every hour is a field. What you plant today will be your harvest tomorrow. The man who followed the rules planted nothing but routine, and so his harvest was nothing but repetition. He woke up, worked, went home, and repeated year after year, decade after decade, until his harvest was only regret. But you must not repeat his mistake. You must recognize that every moment you are living is an investment either in your future or in your decay. If you spend your time in distraction, you will harvest emptiness. If you spend your time in discipline, you will harvest greatness. And here lies the sobering truth. Your future self is begging you not to waste today. Imagine meeting yourself 10 years from now. Will that self thank you for your choices or curse you for your neglect? The man we speak of never thought of this. He lived only in the present, without vision, without regard for the cost. And so his future self was left empty-handed. But you can live differently. You can live with the awareness that every hour is a stone laid in the foundation of your destiny. Build with care, for the building will be your home. Here is your affirmation, one that will ingrain this law into the deepest part of your being. I spend my time as wisely as gold. Every moment builds my destiny. Say it now, write it down, repeat it until you feel the weight of every hour. For time is not free, it is the most expensive thing you own. Do not trade it for distractions that weaken you. Do not sell it cheaply to those who waste it. Guard it, protect it, and spend it only where it multiplies your vision. The man who followed the rules never understood that procrastination is theft. Every delay robbed him of opportunity. Every excuse stole from his future. Every hesitation drained the clock until there was nothing left. You cannot wait. You cannot say someday. Someday is the great lie that has buried millions. The truth is that someday does not exist. There is only today, only now, only the present moment in which you decide, act, and change. Say this to yourself: I act today, not someday. Write it as law, live it as law, for the one who acts now will always surpass the one who waits. Time is the final equalizer. Rich or poor, weak or strong, each of us is given the same number of hours in a day, but it is how those hours are invested that separates the free from the bound, the great from the forgotten, the fulfilled from the regretful. The man we speak of wasted his hours waiting for someone else to write his story, and so his story ended in quiet despair. But you hold the pen, you decide what to write with each passing hour. Will it be a story of courage, of risk, of growth, of destiny? Or will it be a story of waiting, of safety, of loss? The choice is yours, and the clock is ticking. Now let me leave you with the final affirmation, the one that ties all of these lessons together. The declaration that must become your daily creed if you are to escape the fate of the man who followed the rules. I am the architect of my destiny. My thoughts, my attitude, my sacrifices, my discipline, and my time build the life I desire. Say it again, with strength. Write it where you will see it every morning. Repeat it until it becomes the pulse of your being, for once it is written on your heart, you will never again follow rules blindly. You will follow laws deliberately. So now the story is complete. A man followed the rules and lost, but his loss is your warning. He lived in obedience, but not in vision. He lived in routine, but not in growth. He lived in safety, but not in freedom. His life is a mirror in which you can see what happens when you refuse the laws of success. But you are not bound to his fate. You have heard the laws, you have written them down, you have spoken them aloud, and if you will live them daily, they will save you. They will lift you. They will carry you to the life of destiny that was always waiting for you.